くらいくら
Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to season number 21 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight, here at the Concord Speedway for the 11th time here in the history of the ASRC Oval Series, 10th time, or 11th time here for the league itself for ASRC, 10th time for the Oval Series. Unfortunately, this is one of the tracks that is unfortunately no longer around in the real world, but fortunately preserved here on the iRacing.com platform for all of us to enjoy. Opened up back in 1982, of course, down in Concord, North Carolina. Since then, it has closed down back in 2019 and has since been demolished. But what a track it has been here for the ASRC Oval Series. We've had 8 unique winners in the 10 different visits to this track. Previously, winners including Benjamin Harsty. Johnny Bell was the one winner here in the non-Oval Series race. That was in the Pro Mazda for the Open Wheel Series in 2021. Then we've had Benjamin Harsty. I mentioned Harsty. Then it was Travis Sukup that's also taken home 2 checkered flags here, followed by Brad Ringer, Charles Cruz, Coy Hasselou, Asa Spears, and then finally Tyler McRae. And Tyler being the most recent winner at this track all the way back in July of 2023. In those 10 races, though, of course, that is including the one non-Oval Series race, 31 cautions total, so that's about an average of 3 cautions per race, with the most we ever had back in 2021 with 9 cautions, which shockingly is not the most amount of cautions we have ever had in ASRC Oval Series race. So, Lord willing, things won't be quite that chaotic here. But we will just have to see how things end up playing out because drivers are already making their way down to the starting grid. So how about we take a look down there and see how things are lining up here today. Starting out on the pole here in today's event, it's going to be none other than our current point standings leader in that number 85 Makoni Setup Shop entry, the driver out of Denver, Colorado. That is going to be the 85 of Brian Sadowski. To his outside in the number 7 machine in the Save Our Seas Foundation entry, the driver out of Orlando, Florida, that's going to be none other than Kevin Alessia. Back in third in the 188 Rowdy Energy entry, that's the driver out of Medford, Wisconsin. That's going to be none other than Joshua Rudolph. How about back in fourth, though, our one Canadian driver here tonight, driver out of Calgary back there in that Rusty's entry, that's going to be Daniel Sparks from leadoff position number 4. How about back in fifth, though? That's going to be the Caesar Robotics, number 24 of Corey Logan, rounding out the tail end of the field here tonight. And while we let these drivers grid right quick, how about we take a real quick glance down at our point standings here coming into tonight's event. Brian Sadowski, like we said, is the current championship points leader with 56 points to his name. Jason Gardner, unfortunately, not making it here tonight. He is going to be back in second with 46, and it's going to be a tie for third between Kevin Alessia and Joshua Rudolph with 37 points to their name. Then back in fifth, Mark Kluge with 29, followed by Corey Logan back in sixth with 22. Then it's Daniel Sparks back in seventh with 11, Brian Fackler in eighth with 10. Then it's going to be Michael Sparks, rounding out the tail end of our points coming in here to tonight's event. Mind you, still got more than half the season left to go after tonight's race, so definitely expect things to be shaken up by then. That said, though, we're just about ready to get things rolling here. The Facey truck should be making the dive down to pit lane. Sure enough, there it goes. We are getting ready to go green flag racing here. 200 laps the distance here tonight at the Concord Speedway. And as we round through turn number 3, waiting, and green flag up in the air here at the Concord Speedway. So far, so good. Nobody getting into any incidents early on, which is always good to see. Bit of a battle here back for the tail end of the field here between Corey Logan and Joshua Rudolph here side by side, but Logan is going to edge on ahead here in this battle for lap number 1 here. Around the rest of the field, everyone's more or less got it all single filed out right now. Still a very long race here this evening, 200 laps at this tricky little speedway. And of course, you noticed there when we had the The race info pulled up. We're actually not at an oval for once. We are at a triangle. Really just kind of a miniature version of Pocono if you think about it. All three corners are at different angles. All three corners have different bankings, so you can't really tune the car to be particularly good at any particular corner. But so far, it looks like these drivers are handling their way around the field fairly decently here. Yeah, scrape against the wall there for Daniel Sparks a little bit. That's going to allow Corey Logan to catch up, and Corey's just going to go ahead and make the move down on the inside. Might as well. Why not? That's going to bump that Caesar Robotics 24 machine up a position. And just like that, already 5 laps in the books. Still plenty more racing left to go, though, so these drivers are certainly going to have to pace themselves here. Right now, the only changes in position is for Logan and Rudolph. Logan up +2 from where they qualified. Rudolph down 2 from where he started. And Rudolph, you can see, falling it back here just a little bit in that 188 machine. Probably looking to try and maybe do a little bit of fuel saving here, considering they already had that little bit of a rough start. You might as well try and make that ground back up on strategy instead of burning up everything you've got going to try and make this ground back up. We're right now the closest battle on the speedway, together with Daniel Sparks. These two drivers within about 0.4 of a second of each other and closing. Everyone else pretty dang spread out here, at least for the time being. I say that Corey's starting to pull away here. Daniel falling back to about 0.7 of a second, roughly. 10 laps now in the books. Just 190 more to go. No big deal there. Sure enough, looking around the field, yeah, really, things are pretty dang spread out right now. Pull up the track map here, you can see roughly where everyone's at here right now. Definitely still the closest battle on the speedway is this battle between Daniel Sparks and Corey Logan. Daniel's starting to gain just a little bit on that 24 machine, but not all that much. We'll see how the lap times look coming across here. A 16.25 for Corey, a 16.03 for Daniel. So Daniel a little bit faster that time by, but will it be enough to close this gap up in the long run? Because it's seeming like it's staying right around at 0.7 of a second. Neither driver's really making that much of a difference here in terms of track position. If we take a look down at our sectors here, we might be able to get a more complete view of the story. Seems a little bit silly that a track with 3 corners only has 2 sectors, but sure enough, here we are. And you can see Daniel is closing in here on Corey. Now down to about 2... Well, it was down to about 0.2 of a second, then up to about 0.4. We'll see if he can't close that gap back up a little bit here through turn number 3. Closes it up a little bit, but not quite all that much. But it's like we said, I mean, this is a 200 lap event, so more than likely we're going to see this thing go green all the way through, and it's going to be coming down to a matter of strategy in the long run. Who can better manage their stuff? Daniel's going to pull up to the high line, see if he can't try and get a little bit of momentum down through turn number 2, but not quite able to. Sure enough, that time by, Daniel slower through both halves of the speedway. And even still losing a little bit of ground. Corey right now just being very consistent. And that's really all they can do right now, is just run their race and figure out things once they get closer to the halfway point, what all they're doing with their strategies here. Really, both of them pretty equally matched here. Nobody's really making any substantial gains or losses. I mean, our race leader, Brian Sadowski, he's pulling away from the field right now, up to a 2-second lead over everyone else. And Logan and Sparks and Rudolph, all three are falling away, both from Sabelski and Kevin Alessia here. Alessia is falling back, but he is pulled very far away ahead from the rest of the field, excuse me. Has a whole 5 seconds of space to be playing with here. Now, once again, we're back to seeing Sparks start to close up on the distance here. But is it going to be something he's able to maintain? I mean, we've seen him time and time again. He gets right up to Logan's rear bumper and then ends up having to back off. It's been a constant kind of game of cat and mouse between the two of them. And all of that is very slowly allowing Rudolph to start to catch up to the two of them as well. Rudolph currently 1.4 seconds back from Sparks. The last time by was a little bit faster than the two of them, so in the coming laps we should theoretically see that 188 machine start to catch back up here. Sparks once again down to about 0.2 of a second, starting to put himself within striking distance of that 24 machine, and Corey takes a little bit of a wide exit there. Might have been a little bit risky with Sparks right on their tail, but not able to capitalize on it, so still hanging on to the third position here for the time being. This time Sparks managing to stay pretty closely glued to that back bumper here. Not losing as much time as we've seen throughout this game of cat and mouse, as Corey goes a bit wide through the corner again, has a light little tap against the outside wall. Fortunately not enough to cause any damage, but sure enough, now Joshua Rudolph finds himself in the picture here for this battle. Down within a minute. So we can go ahead and take a look at how all three of them are doing right now. Both Sparks and Rudolph faster than Corey this time by so far. Not quite as good through turn 3 though. It seems like most of the time in my experience with this track, turn 3 here is where most drivers struggle. It's just a really awkward corner compared to the other two. Turn 1, it's a really fast, really kind of wide one. Same with turn 2 here. But once you get to turn 3, the track just narrows up and it gets really kind of awkward to make the turn. It's the most banked corner of the three, but it's also the sharpest. Sparks once again starting to close the gap up on Logan here, and we might see him try and go on the attack, or he's just going to make contact. And that's going to send Corey around. The green flag is still up in the air. No caution flag for that incident, though. And now we're going to see the Caesar Robotics 24 machine potentially get put a lap down here. As there's Brian Sabelski just behind. And Alessia's somehow closed that distance up here too, as Corey again in the outside wall. Trying to stay out of the way of the race leaders, and we might potentially see some damage on that number 24 machine now. Not quite positive, but yeah, it's definitely looking like that 24 machine starting to have handling problems here. Let's take a look back here and see what happened to Corey Logan right quick. Get another replay of that. Of course, are still under the green flag right now. Just going down to turn number 1. Looks like Daniel Sparks just kind of carrying too much speed there. Now we have two different battles kind of going on the raceway right now. We have Sparks and Rudolph here, about 3/10 of a second from each other, and then we have Sabelski and Alicia about 8/10 of a second from each other for the race lead. That little bit of an incident has bunched everyone back together here. A very unfortunate situation there for Corey. That's going to be bumping them a lap down now. And of course, since there's no lucky dogs here this season, there's not really going to be any way to make that lap back up unless Corey gets very lucky with their pit strategy, which is always possible. But we'll just have to see how things play out. How about we take a look down at our battle here for the race lead? We have not looked all that much here at these two drivers. Podolsky so far has led every single lap. Doing pretty good so far. Alicia just behind. Also running up where he started at. So no gain or loss there for either of our two front runners. Then we go further back. This battle between Sparks and Rudolph once again is the closest battle on the speedway. This is the battle for the third position. Sparks up in third, Rudolph back in fourth. And despite the contact there with Corey, it doesn't really look like Sparks has lost any speed or gained any damage there. I don't know if Sparks definitely being the faster of the two cars here. Of course, I say that now. This time around, Rudolph's doing a little bit better than Sparks is. Pretty much the same sort of deal that we had before, where both drivers seem to be pretty equally matched with each other here for the time being. Coming across the start-finish line, that gap now down to about 2/10 of a second. We do see that number 24 of Corey up there being at risk, or not at risk of being put a lap down, but at risk of being a little bit further lapped than they currently are. And we'll have to see if that has any effect on this battle going on here. As still, Rudolph and Sparks just kind of going back and forth with each other in terms of sector times. Gains a little bit one lap and then loses it a little bit the next lap. Just back and forth over and over. And of course, that time by, the cycle continues. Rudolph a little bit slower after being faster the lap before, but still keeping that gap about 3 to 4/10 of a second there between the two of them. And nearly contact there between the two of them. That was pretty dang close, as now our two race leaders are coming up behind them at risk of putting both of these drivers a lap down. And I would imagine Rudolph now is really pushing, trying to get around Sparks and buy himself a little bit of time side by side through turn number 2 here. Just trying to make some sort of ground. But sure enough, Rudolph is going to be pulling ahead here. Now the question is, will he be able to pull away here at all? Like I said, right behind Brian Sadelsky and Kevin Alicia, both battling for the race lead and both getting ready to encounter a whole gaggle of lap traffic. All three cars that are either already lapped or about to be lapped are all right neatly put in front of Sadelsky right now. That might give Alicia the opportunity he needs to close up and potentially make a move for the race lead here. Sparks going to pull it on high and let our two race leaders go by. Now it's just Rudolph and Logan in front of our race leader, Brian Sabelski here. Rudolph ducks down below the 24 of Corey Logan. He is trying to make space here. He does not want to go a lap down. Corey pulls it up high, lets the race leaders go on by. So now it's just Sabelski and Rudolph. Rudolph really trying to hustle that car around the speedway here, but just not quite managing. Hasn't gotten Sabelski around him yet. But he's going to go a bit wide through turn number 1. That's going to allow Sabelski to get down to the inside of him. And sure enough, still side by side for the two of them, but that is going to be putting Rudolph a lap down here through turns number 1. And sure enough, through turn number 2, Sabelski has now officially put that 188 machine a lap down. Kevin Alessia now trying to follow through. Now he's been put in the unfortunate situation where our race leader has clean air, but he is stuck behind a lap car. Rudolph going to go up high there through turn number 3, but it's not going to be enough for Alessia to get around him. Now the gap is grown to over a second between Alessia and Sabelski, and very rapidly climbing here. Sure enough, that will be putting all of the field except for Kevin Alessia a lap down here. And like at the last times, we'll see how they update coming across the line. Now that both drivers are in open space, Alessia does seem to be slowly making that lost ground back up. It was dealing with that lap traffic that really threw a wrench in his operation here, but now with an open speedway, Alessia is steadily gaining back on that number 85. I'll tell you what, that is a surprising amount of speed we're seeing out of that 7 machine here, because of the drivers currently in the field, Alessia is the newest of the bunch. Not to call him a rookie by any means, but he is the newest driver both in ASRC and on the iRacing platform as a whole here in this 5-car field. So to see him slowly but surely gaining time on a 5-time league champion, it's kind of impressive to see, particularly this long into a run. If it was like just after pit stops, both drivers on brand new tires, you could chalk it up to, oh, Alessia's just, you know, burning his rubber off, pushing too hard. But we're almost halfway through tonight's race, and he is still keeping pace with the driver of the 85 machine, if not outright catching. Sure enough, the gap is now closed down to 0.2 of a second. I'll take us back around to our sector times now, as Alessia is steadily gaining on that number 85. Will we see him potentially make a pass for the race lead here on our multi-time Oval Series champion? Not quite close enough to do it, but he is most certainly getting there. Right on his bumper. Quickly pulling up the stats here for Kevin real quick. It does look like he has led 74 laps overall here in the ASRC Oval Series. I would imagine a decent number of those likely from the from pit cycles under the green flag. So it would be very interesting to see if Kevin might be able to get his first lap led. As far as I'm aware, first laps led on raw pace here, if he can catch up to that number 85. Of course, now that I've been doing all this talking, hyping him up, starting to lose a little bit of ground here. Gained a little bit through Sector 1 this time by. We'll see if he's able to keep that momentum up. Sure enough, a positive lap there for the driver of the SRC's Foundation number 7 machine. As we start to close in on lap 100, I would imagine we're going to see drivers starting to think somewhat about pit stops here soon. Of course, always a bit scary to be doing them under the green flag, but so far things have been going fairly all right. And sure enough, I mean, I just mentioned talking about pit stops, and our first driver is coming down to pit lane. That is going to be the number 4 of Daniel Sparks. We'll see how this stop goes for him here. Looks like the call is going to be at least 2 tires on that 4 machine. Will we see him go for 4? Looks like the answer is going to be yes. 4 tires here for Daniel Sparks. Everyone else still out running on the raceway. And potentially some damage repair here as well, considering they have finished putting the new tires on and he is still sitting down there. Definitely having some sort of work done to that machine that is not part of the regularly scheduled work there. Because they definitely should be done with that work on that car by now. Galski's pulled the gap back up to a 1.3 second lead though. Alicia has fallen back nearly a full lap and then some. I wonder if Sabelski's maybe been saving tires here and just now decided that he is going to full send and burn off the rest that he has now that he knows he's in the good for his strategy. Yeah, Kevin is rapidly losing ground now. Last time by was 0.3 of a second slower than your race leader here. I've also gotten word Daniel Sparks has officially retired from tonight's event, so he will be wrapping it up in the 5th position. Corey's still kicking out there, currently 3 laps down. Corey cannot finish worse than 4th now. That's just going to leave Sabelski, Alicia, your 2 drivers on the lead lap. Rudolph currently being scored a lap down right now. So for the most part, everyone is more or less just kind of smooth sailing in the spots they're already in. It's going to be really difficult for anyone to make much happen in terms of position changes here. I imagine as we close in on lap number 100, we're going to see these drivers start to be thinking about coming down onto pit lane. Sure enough, we're going to see Corey go ahead and pull it on down there in that Caesar Robotics 24. Likely going to be a 4-tire stop here as well, if I had to guess. No, only 2 tires for the 24 machine. That's going to bring Corey back out onto the speedway. in just 11.48 seconds. Not a bad stop at all by the team for that number 24 machine. That leaves your three current front runners that still need to make a stop at some point here tonight. Brian Zabelski, Kevin Alessia, Joshua Rudolph, all of which have not come down pit lane yet. And now the gap between Zabelski and Alessia has grown to a full 3.5 seconds. So Zabelski either has found a ton of speed here, or Alessia has really burnt those tires off trying to push to take the race lead. One way or another, it's a pretty substantial gap here between these two drivers now at this point. And now we see our race leader, Brian Zabelski, is going to make the call to come down pit lane. That will allow Kevin Alessia to start picking up a couple more laps led, so that will be at least one bonus point to the number 7 machine for having led at least one lap here tonight. And sure enough, Kevin's making the call to come down pit lane here as well. So we'll see how these stops work out for these drivers. Looks like the call is going to be 4 tires on the number 85. And Sadowski will be away here with a 25.58. 4 tires going to be the call for Alessia as well. Let's see if his crew can't get him out of pit lane a little bit faster. Yes, they will. 22.18 for Alessia versus 25.58 for Sabelski. That's going to put Alessia back out on the raceway, actively battling with Sabelski here. Both being scored a lap down because Rudolph has not come down pit lane yet, and Rudolph holding up Sabelski might be what Alessia needs to battle for this race lead once the cycle works out here. Both drivers having now unlapped themselves. I would imagine we're going to see Rudolph come off down on pit lane here probably in the next couple of laps now that he has been unlapped by the race leaders. And once again, we find ourselves in this same old battle here between Alessia and Sabelski. Right now, Sabelski very slowly but surely is pulling away from that 7 machine, and I say that now Alessia is starting to push back just a little bit. The drivers got to keep in mind, they still have 95, making 94 laps left to go. And they're going to have to make these tires last the whole way there, so battling too hard here right on these brand new tires might be proving a bit of a detriment for them. We'll just have to see how things work out, though. Joshua Rudolph is also making his way down to pit lane. Rudolph not yet into his box. We'll see what the call is for him once he makes his way back out. Looks like they are going with 4 tires on that 188 machine here. We'll see how quickly he can get back out on the track. 21.93, the fastest of your top 3 drivers down on pit lane. Sabelski knew fastest sector there last time by. They look up on the timing scoring tower, see everyone's current best lap times. As again, Sabelski is setting new best sectors here. That's Sabelski, a 15.508, his best lap so far, or 15.576, Alicia's best lap. And a 15.9 for Rudolph, a 15.7 for Logan, and 15.7 for Sparks. And a bit of a scrape against the wall there for Alicia heading down the front straightaway. Starting to get a little bit overcast here over the raceway. If it stays like that, we'll see this track start to cool down a little bit. And that might give these drivers a little bit of extra speed to play with here. We'll have to see. But that lap time between Sabelski and Alicia is very steadily climbing here, now up to 0.7 of a second. And still actively gaining. Last time by a 15.84 for Sabelski, a 15.89 for Alicia. Still a very long way left to go here tonight. We have officially crossed the halfway mark in just a little bit over half an hour, so still really a good 25 minutes left of racing for both of these drivers, and I imagine one of them is going to be wearing their tires down a pretty good bit quicker than the other, if I had to wager a guess. But that said, while things have more or less calmed down here around the speedway, how about we take a moment, let's ride on board here with our race leader of Mr. Brian Sabelski and get some of the sights and sounds of these drivers as they make their way around this tricky little triangle of a speedway. I'll tell you what, it might be a Monday evening here, race fans, but Brian Zabelski sailing away with the lead of this race seems to be on a pretty nice and relaxing Sunday drive out there. Currently pulled his lead up to about 5 seconds over Kevin Alessia. Alessia still the only driver still on the lead lap here besides Zabelski. And I say that, Zabelski has a bit of a scrape against the outside wall. That's going to close the gap down to from 5 seconds to almost 3 seconds, and I almost think Zabelski might be having a little bit of handling issues here. Sure enough, just like that, the gap is now closed down to 2 seconds and gaining. That didn't seem like all that substantial of a tap against the outside wall, but sure enough, Alessia has closed the gap down from 5 seconds to now 1 second in the course of about 2 laps. Something must be damaged, if not broken outright, on that number 85 machine from that tap against the outside wall. What a sudden change of events, as now Kevin is right in striking distance of that number 85 machine. Trying to get the nose down up underneath him. It seems like Zabelski's straight line speed is pretty normal. He's just having to really get on the brakes to make that car rotate through the corner. And sure enough, the gap is now side by side for the race lead, and Kevin Alessia, just like that, is your new race leader here. 143 laps in the books. Just about 55 left to go, and Kevin Alessia is pulling away in the race lead here. Driver out of Orlando, Florida, leading here tonight at the Concord Speedway. And if I'm not mistaken, these are his first laps led, not during a pit cycle. But yeah, there's definitely got to be something broken here on Zabelski's car, because you can see now Rudolph, who was a lap down. Oh, trouble. Zabelski into the outside wall, and the caution flag is out. Something had to have broke underneath that 85 machine. And there's no other way to put it there, unless there was contact with Rudolph, but I don't think there was. I mean, I could be mistaken here. We'll take a look back and see what all just went down with that number 85, but I think we just saw something just snap underneath that car. Strafing against the outside wall there. And yes, something had to have broken on that 85. I think I saw smoke come out of the car. I can't get the helmet cam going here. I thought I saw smoke come out of that car before it broke down. Maybe not, but something broke on that 85 machine. There's no other way around it. Something broke on that car. Now we see Zabelski down on pit lane, Rudolph down on pit lane, Logan down on pit lane, all three of them for their second stops. And Sparks, of course, has retired from tonight's event. So that means right now, Kevin Alessia is the only driver on the raceway. And all three of these other cars, Zabelski, Rudolph, Logan, have all been in their pit boxes for almost a full minute now. This isn't regular service. Everyone is just on pit lane now with broken cars. How did this happen? How did we get here? Everyone's now been on pit lane for 1:10 now. Well, they've been on pit lane for more like 1:40, but they've been in their box for at least 1:15. Rudolph and Logan are making their way back out on the track here. Zabelski Sabelski's coming back out now, too. Everyone's made their way back out on the track as the iRacing.com pace truck is going back down to pit lane. Alicia should be the only driver on the lead lap now. Green flag up in the air. We are racing once again here. And no, Sabelski is still on the lead lap. I would imagine with a wounded race car, but he is back out in competition, still on the lead lap. That was my mistake. I forgot with caution laps not counting here this season. Drivers can't change positions, and we might be about to have the caution flag come out again. Corey Logan stopped on the front straightaway, trying to get that car turned around. As we see Alicia coming around the speedway. Now the caution flag flies once again. What a curious turn of events here tonight. Let's take a look back and figure out what happened to Corey here. This was coming after the restart and way too much speed in the corner. Backs it down. And there's Sabelski. Just a little bit of an unfortunate situation there. As we ride on board here with Brian Sabelski and get his point of view here. You see Corey way up high. Corey bouncing in the outside wall, and Sabelski just not quite expecting it. Well, fortune continues to find its way in Kevin Alicia's favor. As once again, Brian Sabelski is back down on pit lane getting service, as is Joshua Rudolph. Corey Logan still out on the raceway. Nope, Corey's changed their mind. Corey's come down to pit lane again here too. So now we once again find Kevin Alicia for the second time here tonight as the only car on the racetrack. Safety lights still turned on. So at least 2 more laps under yellow here before we go racing again. Rudolph has made his way back out on the track, but Rudolph's still a lap down. Corey coming back out on the raceway as well. Sabelski still down on pit lane. And Corey's going to make another trip back down on pit lane. Maybe not happy with how that car is feeling. Now lights are out on the safety car, so we will be going green this time by. The question is, will Sabelski come back out on the track this time by? If so, he should still be on the lead lap. If he doesn't, and the green flag flies, he's coming back out. All right. So Sabelski still will be on the lead lap as the truck makes its way down to the safety of pit lane. Waiting for the green flag to fly once again. And just like that, green's up in the air. We are racing once again. Kevin Alicia, Brian Sabelski, your 2 front runners. Sabelski, again, still on the lead lap as these caution flags do not count here. Now the question is, how wounded is that number 85 machine? Will he be able to get the speed to catch back up to our race leader of Kevin Alicia? First order of business, though, is getting the speed to get around that 188 of Joshua Rudolph, who is currently being scored 2 laps down. Once he's able to do that, then he can start thinking about the race lead. But right now, Alicia is pulling away. The gap's already up to 1.7. Make it 2 seconds, just like that. Sabelski definitely still battling a wounded race car here. We have crossed the 150 lap mark, so call it about going to be about 45 laps left to go. 46 once we come across the line here. Alicia, your race leader, pulling away, now up to a 4-second gap. With Sabelski having that wounded race car, really, he doesn't have anything to worry about short of keeping himself clean, keeping that car from making the same little tap against the wall that we saw out of Sabelski that apparently just destroyed some of the inner workings of that 85 machine, because he is substantially off the pace right now, almost a full second a lap slower than our race leader Kevin Alicia right now. Kevin going a little bit wide there, going through turn number 3. Of course, as a relatively speaking rookie driver right now, even if the situation is clear, you really got to think about the nerves going on for that driver. We're looking at potentially getting their first win here in ASRC. Not their first win on the iRacing.com platform, but definitely their first win in an iRacing league. He knows he's in the clear. His one and only driver that can compete with him right now has a damaged race car and is 10 seconds back. But those nerves can cause you to make mistakes. And we saw what happened when Sabelski made a mistake earlier to no fault of his own, or no fault of anyone else. These things can happen. It's not over till it's over. Right now, Alicia just needs to drive another solid 44 laps without making mistakes. Don't even have to be fast ones. He just has to drive 40 more laps. Podolski's still out on the raceway here in that 85 machine, but you can see those rear brake rotors are absolutely scorching hot right now. He is having to just mash the brakes to get that car to rotate at all. It's definitely not steering correctly here. And you can see Alicia just behind now, coming to potentially put that 85 machine a lap down here. Got it down to 13.7 seconds. We're turning 15.5 second laps here. What a chaotic race it has been here with only 5 drivers. Kind of an impressive feat. Of course, we were talking about the stats coming into tonight's event. An average of 3.1 cautions here at this speedway. The most cautions we ever had was 9. I want to point out that 9 caution race was a 100 lap event here, so 3 times the amount of cautions in half the race distance. And sure enough, just like that, Alicia will be putting Brian Sabelski a lap down here, with about 33 laps left to go here in tonight's event. Rudolph all over the back bumper of that 7 machine here, but not on the lead lap, so it doesn't really matter. Right now, it's all smooth sailing for the driver out of Orlando, Florida. Next time by, going to be 30 laps left to go. And mind you, we're still turning about 16-second laps here. That's how much the tires have fallen off, that we're now turning 16-second laps instead of 15. But regardless, those 30 laps, I mean, they're going to be the longest 30 laps of Kevin's career so far. But up here in the broadcast booth, they should be going by pretty darn quickly here. Everyone's spread out around the speedway. Nobody is on the same lap as each other, so even if anyone did catch up with each other, no one can actually battle for position at this point. Unless anyone has some sort of mechanical failure, this is basically all she wrote for the finishing results here for today's race in these final 29 laps. I'll tell you what, This will be one for the record books for the driver of that number 7 machine. This will be Kevin's... Let's see here. This is Kevin's 26th start here in the ASRC Oval Series. Potentially looking at getting his first ever win here tonight. I have just over 100 starts here with ASRC, and I've never won a race here, but that's why I'm up in the broadcast booth and not out on the racetrack. I'll tell you what, 26 starts here with the league. Average starting position of 6th. Average finishing position of 6th. All in all, not that bad, statistically wise, for this driver. "24 laps left to go here for Kevin Alessia, though. It is all smooth sailing around the raceway at this point. All he has to worry about is himself. Make that now 23 left to go here. Something also interesting to note here is that should Kevin take home the race win, I don't want to actually outright say that Kevin has won until the checkered flag is flown. But should Kevin win, that will also mean that we will have had 4 unique winners so far in these 4 races we've had here this evening. Of course, Sabelski 1 win, Gardner 1 win, Joshua Rudolph 1 win to his name here as well. So Alessia would be the 4th unique winner here so far in season number 4. We'll just have to see how many times that that trend continues. Alessia also potentially being the 4th unique winner means that this season no one will be breaking the record of most wins in a single season, as that is at 9 right now. "19 laps left to go for the driver in that SRC's Foundation entry. Brian Sabelski right now still pretty considerably off the pace right now. Corey Logan's missing the back bumper of that CZ Robotics 24 machine. Not sure how that happened. That is a fairly substantial amount of damage on that super late model machine. But sure enough, still putting down some solid lap times here, battling with that number 85 to get around him. That really just goes to show just how damaged underneath the hood that 85 machine is, that a car as damaged as that of this 24 machine is able to get around him here. But coming across the line here, now 15 laps left to go. Kevin looking to put Sabelski down another lap, also looking to put Logan down another lap. And it's looking like he may very likely have the speed necessary to do it here with all these other damaged and mangled cars, as Corey scraping against the outside wall, getting a bit stuck up there. I'm curious to see what the incident count is going to be looking like here tonight, as there's actually a battle for position happening now. Sabelski and Rudolph are actually battling for position here. And Corey, around in turn number 3, manages to lock it down and save it. No caution flag. But Rudolph was able to get around Sabelski there. So now Rudolph's moved up to 2nd, Sabelski down to 3rd. As Corey had that little bit of a slide, we'll take a real quick look back here and see what happened there. Looked like maybe just got a little bit too hard on the brakes, sure enough. And that's all it took to make that car slide out from underneath them. Well, everyone's still pointed in the right direction here with the big double high five up in the air from Barney the Flagman. So 10 more laps to go here for Kevin Alessia before he potentially takes home his first ever victory, not just in the ASRC Oval Series, but in any iRacing league. We will just have to see how these final, make it 8 laps to go this time by, go for him. Even if the caution flag did come out, it wouldn't really matter because everyone would still be stuck multiple laps down from him. All that he needs to do is not get in an accident in these final 7 laps. And right now, with how spread out the field is looking, it seems like he's in a pretty solid state to do so. Now 6 laps left to go. Again, all smooth sailing around the raceway. Big high five up in the air as he heads through turn number 3. That's going to be 5 laps left to go here from our friend Barney up in the flag stand. 5 more times around this half-mile circuit before Kevin Alessia takes home his first ever checkered flag here at the ASRC Oval Series. Four to go here. Corey Logan starting to get back up to that 85 machine. Not on the same lap as each other, but could end up being a battle regardless. Gonna be 2 laps left to go here as Alessia heads through turn number 3. What a wild evening it has been here tonight here at the Concord Speedway. Always proven to be a little bit of a tricky track here, being 3 corners instead of 4. Always manages to throw people off their game, and it's the drivers that can thrive in that little bit of chaos that always manage to succeed, it seems like. But sure enough, coming across the start-finish line one last time, Kevin Alessia is gonna be your winner here for round number 4 at Concord Speedway. Joshua Rudolph finished it off in second. Brian Sabelski rounding out your podium here tonight. Now see is going to bring it on down to the front straightaway. Will we see a burnout out of that driver? Well, we're trying to. It's the thought that counts. There is, in fact, a wall there, but we might just get a burnout here. We're working on it. We're figuring it out. I can't imagine he's really been practicing for it, so he's trying to find us some room to make it happen. That said, though, race fans, we'll be back here in just a moment with some words with your top 3 finishers. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to the Concord Speedway. 200 laps of a somewhat unorthodox race here in the books here this evening, but up in the broadcast booth with me in the number 7 SRC's foundation entry is going to be none other than Mr. Kevin Alessia, taking home his first ever checkered flag here of the ASRC Oval Series. Kevin, how are you feeling here tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good. Like to have a first checker flag on the Dorito of all places. It's kind of exciting. I'm really loving the car.
Yeah, you've definitely had a lot of speed, in every race so far this season. There might be some diehard Concord fans out there that would be offended at you for calling it the Dorito, but considering you have the checkered flag and they don't, I don't think they have much of a say in what you call it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard it being called. So, and I see it looking like that. So it's one of my fun favorite tracks to race on, as far as I'm aware.
Fair enough. I mean, you definitely put on a heck of a show here tonight. Um, Coming into tonight's event, did you feel like this might be the race where you finally had it happen?
No, I mean during practice I felt like I was pretty doing pretty consistent lines and consistent times. And I was like, okay, maybe this one might be the one where I can be right behind the leader, or if not be the leader. I wasn't expecting to take it the way I did, but um, consistency paid off this time.
Sure enough. Of course, with the checkered flag in your hand, that makes you the fourth unique driver to take home a win here this season, and should be bumping you pretty far up the championship point standings here. So, now with your first win under your belt, what's your outlook for the remainder of this season?
Um, Definitely want to try to get more wins. Seeing that I'm being a lot better with this car and getting a lot better in oval series in general, uh, leads me to believe that I can definitely be in the top three at the end of the season. And I'm looking forward to racing with everyone more so.
Well, next week, heading on over to the Southern National Motorsports Park. I know that's a track you probably have some experience with because it's one of the tracks that comes with your rookie iRacing beginner subscription stuff. After that, though, heading to the smallest track on the schedule with the Slinger Speedway before we head to four more of those rookie level tracks with South Boston, Lanier, Langley, Oxford Plains, and finally the championship at Nashville Fairgrounds. Are there any of those tracks in particular that you're really eyeballing as maybe being your better bets?
None really in particular, but I do like Oxford. Oxford is one of the tracks I do race a lot on from like public series and other series, and so I think I would do very well on that track.
Good deal. Well, it seems to me like we have a lot to be looking forward here for the remainder of this season. Of course, for tonight, though, with your first victory to your name, I won't keep you here all evening. I know you got celebrating to do. But for now, the microphone is all yours, Mr. Alessia. Who do you want to thank for making things happen?
I want to thank you for broadcasting. It's always a joy to look back at these broadcasts and seeing everyone come out and look at it. My wife always there watching every single broadcast, every single race, and cheering me on. Um, and the Save Our Seas Foundation because they're a wonderful foundation to the aquatic lives and coral reefs. So you know, I think that's about it.
Good deal. Well, congratulations on getting your first win here with the league, and I look forward to seeing you next week over at Southern National.
Thank you.
And finishing back here in position number 2, Mr. Joshua Rudolph. It seems like you've managed to make your way into my broadcast booth basically every single race here this season. So another podium, definitely a good place to be. How are you feeling?
Not too bad. Really care for this track coming into tonight. Did about 20 laps, and I said it's going to be a small Pocono, and it's small. There's no break, so I didn't really think too much of it, and saw practice, did a little bit, kind of was a little discouraged, but these endurance races, you just got to be consistent and then hope that you can be in relative position. And it seems like we have podium speed this season with this car, so
Yeah, definitely a pretty solid start to the season here so far. I guess the same sort of deal where I was talking with Kevin here, looking at the remainder of the schedule. Are any of these tracks particularly standing out to you as ones you feel like you're going to be doing well at?
uh, I don't know. It's gonna be up and down. We got tracks like Slinger coming up. That's a monster in itself. Tight, narrow, and it's like five legs, but a tenth of the size with 3 times the banking. We go to different things like Oxford, nothing but a circle. We go to different ones as South Boston, kind of an oval, and stuff like that'll be decent. The oval stuff, if it's not constant left turn, we seem to do a little bit better at, just because we can be a little more consistent. But it's tough. These cars are tough to pass. You can really pinch somebody or not really give anything up other than force them to do either bump and run, a big crossover, and warm their tires up, and the list goes on how you can defend. So on a 10 scale, probably a 6. Nothing great, nothing horrible.
Fair enough. Of course, so far, just about all of this season so far, you've been pretty much tied with Kevin in the point standings as well. So now, if this win, he has moved a little bit up ahead of you. Do you think you'll be able to make that ground back on him?
I don't know. Kevin is a little faster than me consistently, especially on the short side of the runs. Short side of the runs, we're just back half of the pack. We aren't podium in the front side of the run, but longer it goes, if we can stay relative and just kind of get through the first 25 laps, we seem to be able to match the leaders half the time to 2/3 of the run on the backside. So if I can just work on the short side, I think we'll be decent. And Kevin is just shy of Brian and Jason. So, and I think I'm just shy of Kevin. I think that he can outpace me in the front side, and I've been trying to pass him. Tonight was a prime example. He just didn't give an opening, and that's what you got to do. And I have to make a decision of run through you, which I don't. I don't need to run through anybody. Or you've got to play some kind of offense and try to gain momentum to be on the inside, and it's tough. And Sparks, it seems like we're a little bit better, not by a ton, and we're better than Corey most of the time. So that's why we're about fourth place speed. So consistency pays off, and we catch some breaks here and there. That's how we keep getting up to this podium spot. Tonight was third place speed, and Brian made a mistake, and just the slightest mistake with these cars in the wall, you're going for a ride. The right side's gone, and that's how we're able to get past Brian. And we would have had to been in the lead lap to get past Kevin tonight. He just there was no way to get past him and make up more than 5 seconds after that second or third caution. So
Well, all in all, it's been a good run for you here tonight, but a pretty good season so far. So, with another podium to your name, I'll let you go and celebrate here this evening. But before you go, the microphone's all yours. Who do you want to thank for making it happen?
first and foremost, Kevin, shout out to you to get your first win. You've been with us for a while, and you definitely earned it. A tough track, tough combo, and it wasn't just a luck win. You were with Brian all night tonight, so congrats to you. I know how it feels to get your first win. And then thank you to the sponsors for the hobby. Joe Getty, pretty cool to put Rowdy on this car for the season. One of my favorite sponsors. Paint, so you could put on there, and thanks to all the friends and family that helped. And shout out to K9P Racing. Great weekend overall in terms of Sunday Night League, this league, the Daytona 24. So shout out to a lot of people, and thank you to broadcast, and then the admins to run this league.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on another podium to your name, and I look forward to seeing you next week at Southern National.
Thank you.
All right, race fans. So that's your top two finishers here tonight. Brian Sabelski is the driver that brought it back home in the third position here tonight. Word on the block is he has already packed it up on the hauler and has declined to comment. So unfortunately, won't be hearing any words from him here this evening. But we've seen how good he has been here this season. I have full confidence that he will have plenty of more opportunities to be up here in the broadcast booth with us. That said, of course, your top three weren't the only three drivers here in the race here tonight, so how about we take a quick look down at our race results as they stand. Of course, unofficial. Well, like I said, it has been years since we've had to penalize someone post-race, so these might as well be official results. Kevin Alessia takes home his first ever race win with the ASRC Oval Series here this season, being the fourth unique driver in 4 races and the second driver this season to take home their first ever win with the league. Back in second, going to be the 188 of Joshua Rudolph. Then again, with the number 85 of Brian Sabelski rounding out the tail end of the field. Then back and forth, it's the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan, followed by Daniel Sparks rounding out the tail end of the field here tonight. That said, that's just about all we've got here this evening from the Concord Speedway. So thank you all for tuning in here this evening. Of course, if you're interested in joining the ASRC Oval Series, we are always open to new drivers. Be sure to look us up on iRacing, and the only requirements to join to be a clean and respectful driver. But for now, thank you all for tuning in here this evening, and I will see you all